Welcome to A1TV and a special edition this week. It's Refugee Week, and in celebration of that, we've got a great guest tonight, a person who I've had a bit to do with over the years at Werribee Football Club, but he's moved on to greater and greener pastures. But we'll talk to Sammy Malual. I want to go back, Sammy. Welcome to A1TV. Welcome to the Mark Show. Tell me about your early beginnings, because it is Refugee Week, and about time as a refugee or time as you growing up in Sudan.
So war broke out probably earlier in the 50s, and then a second war broke out again in the 80s. Mom and dad decided to leave the country because of the war. So I was born in a refugee camp in Ethiopia, and then after Ethiopia, we moved to a new refugee camp in Kenya.
So your early recollection of the refugee camp, obviously in Australia now it's a great rich country, but your own recollections of it as a young child in the refugee camp, what can you remember?
Oh, plenty, mate. I can remember people going without food, without water at stages. Little fights would break out here and there, and you'd have to wait at least a couple of months till the food was delivered by the United Nations World Food Program. So it was challenging back then, but we had schools as well, which was good. So that kept us busy. We studied English there and Swahili, maths, you name it, just the basics. So it was beautifully set up. But the part where the food shortages comes through or water shortages come through is where people struggle a lot.
Now, stories go that you had to move refugee camps, and it was a bit of a walk. Tell us a bit about that.
From Ethiopia, I remember we packed our stuff one night with a few hundred other families, and we literally walked a whole month to get to the next refugee camp. And during that month, overcame some challenges as well. We ran out of food, people ran out of water. We had to cross rivers and lakes, and not many people can swim, so you can set up in your mind what could have happened there with some of the families or some of the younger kids, minors that were walking around as well, who didn't have fathers or dads to look after them. So it's one of the lucky few that sort of made it through because of our dad and mom, the few relatives that were helping us.
Well, how many people do you reckon were in a refugee camp? Do you have a number, just as a guess?
Probably 200,000, they said at one stage, but the war did displace over 2.5 million South Sudanese people. And refugee camp, it was the biggest in the world at that stage in the 90s. It fluctuates now between 80 to 200,000, and there's still people living there because they've just made it home even though the war has stopped.
What's your early recognition of moving to Australia and how that process went, and how long it took you to get to Australia before you settled on our shores?
First time on a plane, I remember vividly, we left Kenya, Nairobi in June 24th. Got on a plane, got handed a chicken burger. I didn't like it because I've never tasted a chicken burger before. And on the way, I was watching Charlie Chaplin the whole time. So I was laughing on the plane the whole time. And I stepped to Melbourne shores at 25th of June, and it was bloody cold, right? That's all I remember very, very vividly. Cold. And then, we made Western Melbourne our home.
Because obviously food and water were pretty hard to come by, obviously apart from the chicken burger. What were your first thoughts about Melbourne when you arrived here? What were you thinking about Melbourne at that point?
Yeah, I knew where I was going because 12 at that time as well, and did a bit of research. We used to have the world maps. I didn't know too much about Melbourne or Australia, but first thought, yes, it was cold, it was foggy, and it smelled different. It smelled very weird because I've never been brought up in a big city like that. So yeah, it was very different.
At that stage, how many siblings were with you in that stage? And how was the weather? How did you go acclimatising to Melbourne get pretty cold and changing weather? How did that go?
Bad to arrive in winter when you've never experienced winter in your life. Jumpers, jackets, socks, everything. Heaters, that was on every day till our body can get used to the climate. But then summer came and loved it.
How many siblings?
So, there was 6 of us came over and 2 were born here.
Okay.
So we were born in all 4 different countries.
Not many people can say that, Sammy. Relatives obviously here when you first come here. Did you have any connections in Australia, in Melbourne when you first got here?
We were actually supposed to go to America first as refugees, but somehow in 2001, the form failed. I don't know why, the visa immigration form. And Mom had an uncle that lived in Clayton, and I think I was very, very pushy around, hey, I want to leave Africa, I want to go out. I was always a dreamer that saw myself leaving Africa and try to go chase some type of education. And a year later, our mom received the form, we filled it, and in 2002, we were accepted as a humanitarian visa. You lived in Noble Park on the other side of the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, first of all. And where have you lived in your period in Australia? West side of Melbourne, and then to Springvale South. around the Noble Park area, and then moved back to the Wyndham region in 2007. So now just the three areas that's all I've called home in the last 18, 19 years.
I suppose now with, and I'll get to your work, but your journey into your career now, when did you first decide I want to work in sport? That's where I want to be. Because you've held some pretty good roles over the years, but when did you decide and how did that come about?
I think it would have been pretty early on because I went and studied building construction, become a project manager, but obviously that's not where I saw myself after I got in contact with the Hard of North Melbourne and did some volunteer work there. And yeah, I just loved the vibe and the energy of involving new Australian, making sure that we share the game with everybody else that's new to the country. And yeah, that was passion then.
And you've worked at North Melbourne Football Club, you worked at the Werribee Football Club, and now the Essendon District Football Club. Tell the viewers about your roles that you've had over the years and what you're involved with that role.
So I started off as a game development officer where we'd take the game into primary school, teach the kids from grade 1 and 6 basics of football, and just to be able to see the smiles on the kids' faces. You want to do it again and keep learning and becoming a better person. So that was the first gig I ever did for AFL, and then with the North Melbourne Football Club. Before volunteering and casual hours, I was finally given a full-time role as a diversity and inclusion. I was working hand in hand with Werribee as well, as North Melbourne's region was Wyndham. So I was able to work with some fantastic people at Werribee, at North Melbourne Football Club and Afl Victoria as well. Yeah, and then kept evolving and kept learning. And then a few years later, I was given the opportunity to develop further as a football development manager in the Northwest, and then COVID hit. But it's a good journey. Football is just massive in Australia that just keeps connecting you to the wider community.
So at the moment, you're working with the Essendon District Football League, working with clubs, multicultural issues and development. Is that what it is?
Yes, it's a new role as well. I'd never listened to your podcast until you called me earlier. Sorry about that. But I heard your last session, and I think I'll be working closely with you as well in the next few months or years to come to make sure that we take football to the communities instead of us waiting for them to come to us.
We all need to talk because I'm now obviously part of the Glenroy Sports Club, and one of the roles is obviously take the game and take development to the community. So I'm really keen to get involved with local community. So you and I will talk. Absolutely.
Likewise, mate.
Yeah,
Likewise.
Absolutely. Do you see yourself as a bit of a role model, Sammy, to other Sudanese people or kids, or not only develop life, but also their sport skills?
I would like to start at home first, in my own household. So I like to see myself as a role model for my little brothers and sisters first before I ever go into the wider community, because there's so many different ways of issues that need to be looked up to. But if I can hold my end, I think that will help trickle down as a domino effect to a few others close to me.
So you got your own kids now, haven't you? Haven't you got your own kids?
Yes. I'm a father now, love it. I had to grow up early as well. I used to look after my little siblings, so transitioning to fatherhood was something, was inevitable, and I love doing it. So I've got an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and full house, very loud, school holidays now, poor wife at home.
I can only imagine. What about mental health? Obviously, I think it's touched you a bit and touched people that you know. It's a big issue in society today, isn't it?
It's huge. It's big, and it's good that we're all starting to talk about it now. And even in my own close circle, we do bring it up. At least if you need help, at least once a week, we're always talking. We're always close. Better to be open. Just let the frustrations out than letting them build up. So something that we all need to talk about it, because we all go through it at least once, twice in our lifetime, where it's going to be there.
Sammy, how big? And I'm actually learning information as I speak to you, because I'm a sponge for information, and I love talking to people that are from different backgrounds. How big is the Sudanese Ethiopian community, especially in the western suburb? How big is it now?
It's big now. I haven't seen the data, but just looking around, driving around from 10, 15 years ago, you realize, wow, this place has grown immensely. And yes, there is massive Horn of African communities there in Ethiopia, and South Sudanese communities as well. There's a lot of young kids as well. Our demographic is fairly young. Yeah, it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger, and the better resources we put in the communities, the better people we'll have leading the future.
Now, your football career has been very interesting. I want you to tell the viewers about where you started playing football and where you've been and where you are today, which is it's a great story in itself.
Yeah, I love football. I love meeting new people. I love networking. So yeah, football has been a doorway for a lot of the things that I have today, or the more that is coming. So I first started under 16s at Noble Park. My little brothers were playing there as well. My brother Matt actually played with Law back in under 12s, under 11s, and so yeah, under 16 I stopped playing because in one game I got racially vilified by a player, and I didn't know how to act or react. And there was no any help around there or anything. So I actually quit football for at least 5 years. And then I came back in 2011. This time I made sure to be comfortable that I was ready. I was ready this time. And I took my friend, a few of my boys as well, as you know, Shaggy worked with Werribee as well. We took them down to Wyndham Vale, and we just felt at home straight away. The coaches there were awesome. The players. I had the long locks back then. People were comparing me to Nick Nat. Didn't quite make it to AFL, but yeah, it was just good to be a part of a community. And then I've played a few other local clubs as well around the Wyndham region. And a couple of years ago, last year, just before COVID, decided to try country footy because I've always wanted to try country footy. And I went up to Seymour, part of the community now. They've welcomed me, my little brother, a couple of other boys, my cousin as well. Afl Victoria plays with us as well, who's at Werribee. And we've all been welcomed very, very keenly at Seymour. And it's really close, knit community, awesome people, and we're having fun just being around good community.
You've actually done yourself an injury just recently, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've tracked real well. I think it's all age. You know, I'm coming up to 33 now. Yeah, did an ACL. It hurt like crazy, but I was able to. I'm actually getting better now. I'm 2-3 months into it. I'm doing all the rehab, all the right stuff. I haven't won a flag yet, so I'm not trying to retire as of yet. I want to win something and don't come home for a week, like they say, go party.
You'll see in the background the picture of the Werribee Football Club, which I have a really close association, as you know, and your little brother. We're trying to get your little brother drafted. So Bior, Malual, we're trying to get Bior drafted. So we'll work pretty hard, continue to do that and keep his dream alive, which is a really great thing, which is fantastic. But I want to leave you one question, right? You've been through refugee camps. You've walked for miles and miles and miles to go to another refugee camp. You've seen the hardships in Sudan. What has your childhood and upbringing taught you about yourself and life to this point? Can you put a thought or some words together about how you describe that?
I do. I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's taught me that, you know, if I keep dreaming, everything will come through. Matter of fact, if I want it, I will always have it. It has always worked out that way. So I just come with good energies, make sure to chase your dreams, don't stop for anybody. And yeah, anything is possible and everything is possible because all the other stuff in the background, I just trying there to stop you. But yeah, if you can clear your mind, you'll get there.
Do you preach that story to people, anybody wants to listen, and the younger people in the Sudanese community, any community, I suppose? You've got your elders and your people that have been there and done it, and you see the younger generations coming through in any culture or any multicultural issue or society. It's really good to be a role model in your community.
Yeah, you would say, but it's a community varies really. It's very wide. Yeah, it's hard to be a role model for almost everybody in the community. But as I said, you can start at home, close to your house, and your close relatives, if they can see you as somebody that can aspire to. I think that's the biggest part for me.
Sammy, I want to thank you for joining us during Refugee Week on A1TV, the Mark Show. It's been great having you on. Have a little chat. We will catch up in the next few weeks because I'm really keen to have a chat, sit down with you and talk about your role that you've got with the Essendon District Footy League. It's important, your important role in the community. So thanks very much for joining me. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you, mate. Good to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Take care.
Take care.